Hi, everybody, and a massive welcome to the Narcissistic Abuse and Trauma Recovery Podcast. This is your weekly dose of inspiration. So, in today's episode, I want to talk to you about something that I get a lot of messages about, and that is if they are the narcissist. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why you would feel like that. And if you just want to stop the podcast right now, if you're asking yourself that, you're not, okay? But I want to explain because I do get so many messages from people who are so worried that they could be the narcissist. Because very often, if you start reading up about narcissistic abuse and you start to say to your partner, your parent, whomever it might be, well, you're a narcissist, they will turn around and say, no, I'm not, you're a narcissist. And that can be quite confusing for you because you're already in often a freeze response. You're already really feeling like everything is your fault. So when they start to say that to you, the gaslighting continues because you actually start to believe that. So let's kind of dive in a bit deeper about why we would think we are the narcissist if the narcissist says that back to us. Well, remember, narcissists are always going to project outwardly. Narcissists are amongst the most deeply wounded people out there. It may not look like it, but they really, really are. And I just want to add in something here. Don't get your violins out, okay, right now. I'm not sharing this for us to all start to feel sorry for them, but I do want to share this because I do think it's a really important aspect of understanding narcissistic abuse so that you can understand why they behave the way that they do and can really shift into understanding it's never, ever a reflection of you. There's a reason for that. Now, we know narcissists aren't born this way. There isn't a narcissist gene. Narcissists come about by parenting a child in a certain way, and that can be, they can be a golden child, it can be through neglect and abuse. And what happens is certain brain changes start to happen. Now, we don't know why they happen to some children and why they don't happen to others. We just know that they do happen to some. And again, neuroscience is changing all of the time. You know, in 12 months' time, 5 years' time, we may know those reasons why. But it's almost like a perfect storm to create narcissists. So there's not a narcissist gene, but there's definitely a generational trauma perspective of how parents parent. You know, somebody who parents, say, a golden child, there's likely one of those parents will be narcissist, and you can start to look at their parents and you can do a whole generational genogram back. And again, we know generational trauma is passed through 7 generations. So depending on how someone parents can very much predict and move towards whether that child is going to become narcissistic too. So we know then that a narcissist comes about from childhood due to their interpretation and perception of other people's behavior, very often parents in this scenario. So again, it could be the golden child. It could be, you know, they are spoiled, absolute rotten. And that might seem like a really positive, great thing. You know, hey, I wouldn't mind that role in the family. But actually what you learn there is love is conditional. You have to look a certain way, behave a certain way, achieve a certain thing to receive love. So the golden child very often tends to be the eldest child. Sometimes it can be the second child if the first child doesn't live up to those expectations. But the golden child then will often then move into being a narcissist. And there's many world leaders gone in the past and even today that were golden children as well. And I've done some articles in the press talking about that. So why is it then you have this golden child then that suddenly projects pain outwardly to you as that adult? Well, you imagine whether there be a golden child, a scapegoat, neglect, or abuse, that creates a core inner child wound for that individual of I'm not good enough, I'm worthless, I'm unlovable, I'm not important. So everything, again, just as all human beings work and operate, everything becomes about moving away and diminishing feeling that core emotional wound. That core emotional wound is literally like the worst possible pain that somebody could feel as a child. Now, what a narcissist will do in this scenario is that individual who has that core pain will have lots of other parts coming up, like manipulation, control, gaslighting, anger. And these are really all of that individual's protector parts outwardly projecting to minimize the pain of that individual. And all of the protector parts, because they are of that core wound to not feel like that, we can kind of then summarize and call a narcissist then too. I don't necessarily buy into the medicalization of narcissistic personality disorder, because for me, when I look at the DSM, which is the book that is used to diagnose mental health disorders, so many of them for me are just labels we're slapping on symptoms of trauma. Not all, but the majority in there. And for me, I like to look at the root cause of things. That doesn't mean the word narcissist isn't useful to survivors of narcissistic abuse, because utilizing the word narcissist conjures up a whole host of behaviors and traits that an individual will behave like. And then if we know that person is a narcissist, we can immediately know a number of things. One, there's abuse present. Two, they're not going to take any ownership or responsibility at all, because everything is about protecting them from feeling their core wound. So then we as survivors can start to understand, as a starting point for our healing, oh, okay, that means it's not because of me. It's not because it's a reflection of me. And it's a really important concept to start to understand. You know, the narcissist, how they behave towards you is zero reflection of you. They are behaving like that towards you to actually soothe their own core inner child wounds, because that's how we all operate as human beings. It just so happens that their protector parts to project outwardly to minimize their core wounds are very, very proactive ones, like gaslighting, like coercive control. Whereas somebody like you and I, survivors, codependents, ours are very reactive. So we're reacting to the projection of their pain, and we start to see that as a reflection of us too. Now, the other thing that can happen if you're wondering if you're the narcissist, you know, the first thing I would say is you take some ownership and responsibility. You can start to understand everything that I've just been through. You will understand. And some of you, rightly so, to a point, will feel some element of compassion of, wow, they're really deeply wounded individuals then. Yes, they are. The problem being is you can never get past their own protector parts to work on that inner child, to work really, really work deep at that nervous system level, because it would be too dangerous for them to do that, because there's a potential they might feel their core wound, and their systems are set up for that never, ever to happen. Whereas for people like you and I, we're more open to healing. We can understand a little bit more, but there is something in our brain that we have called mirror neurons. And when we're in relationships with narcissists, sometimes we can actually look at our own behavior and sometimes feel really ashamed of it and think, oh my God, what am I turning into? You know, I would never behave like that. And you start to show up in ways that you never thought or imagined you ever would. And that can feel really, really shameful. That's where a lot of the time we start to question, oh my God, is it me? Am I actually the narcissist? Well, the answer is no. These mirror neurons that we have in our brain, and as empaths in particular, we have even more than the average person, meaning we are going to mirror the narcissist behavior, because if we mirror the narcissist behavior, then surely it's going to minimize the abuse that they are using against us. Because if they're behaving like that, surely that's the behavior to be like to stay safe. So I'm going to behave like them. The problem being is we end up doing things and acting like things that maybe we would never act like. And that's where the gaslighting, the manipulation starts to come in, because we do start to question ourselves. So I hope this is really helping you understand that it isn't you. You aren't the narcissist. If you're listening to this podcast, you know, desperately wondering, is it me? Am I the narcissist? The answer is no, because quite simply, no narcissist would ever ask themselves if they are a narcissist. I mean, think about the one in your life right now. Can you honestly see them saying that? It just doesn't happen. You know, when I think about my ex-husband, who was a covert narcissist, saying that, I mean, pigs would fly before that would happen. It just would never, ever happen at all. But of course, if they never take any ownership, we start to question ourselves with this too. Well, let me tell you, it absolutely isn't you. And your power comes from recognizing and seeing that you are reacting to their projection of their pain. They will never, ever change. So they will continue for the rest of their life, because there's no research to suggest we can cure them. They will continue for the rest of their life to project their pain outwardly, constantly looking for others to feed their narcissistic supply, their drug of choice. Your power comes in. How do you receive that? If you're receiving it in a way and you're blending in with one of your own parts, like people pleasing, then it's just a case of, why do you feel like their behavior is a reflection of you at a really deep unconscious level? Even though you may know it isn't, you may know that, your body still reacts. And that's where we have those emotional triggers that keep coming up as well. So your power comes not in changing the narcissist. Your power comes in working on getting curious about, why do I feel and react when the narcissist projects their pain onto me? I know it's not because of me, but why do I react? This is when we need to do the somatic work. This is why we need to work in the body. Just simply talking about this over and over again actually wires in even more, and you will react even more to their projection. We have to work at a nervous system level. We have to work somatically within the body. And when I'm working with my clients, I use things like IFS, somatic experiencing, brain spotting. We work really, really deep. So we work on your core wound, so you know and feel that you are good enough. So your protector parts start to calm in your nervous system. So when the narcissist is projecting their pain outwardly, you're receiving it in a very different way. You're receiving it coming from yourself, not receiving it as a trigger to your core emotional wound. And this is where your power comes in as well. So in conclusion, if you're listening to this, you're asking that question, you are not the narcissist, okay? So know that right now. Even if you're doubting yourself, save this podcast, come back and listen to it time and time again. If you're asking, you're not. Hope that really helps you understand. And remember, if you do feel like your behavior and you don't understand why you're behaving like this, again, it's not your fault. We just need to work deep. As an empath, feeling other people's emotions, for instance, it's really important. You are a beautiful, beautiful soul, but we need to move you from exhausted to empowered to work deep within at a nervous system level. So you can still be the beautiful, wonderful soul that you are, just not taking it on board and feeling like you need to react and change how other people behave, so you can go back to a place of homeostasis and balance, knowing that you are good enough. Because let me tell you, you are good enough. It's not a spectrum. You are, period. You always have been. You always will be. And you are right now. So take care, my friends. I hope this really, really helped you understand you are not the narcissist. And I'll see you on the next episode.